lot of controversy and differences of opinion surround one of the biggest fights ever, Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Let's dive into it from a different perspective. First and foremost, I scored the fight 7-5 for Hagler. I thought rounds 4 and 12 were swing rounds that I usually give to the champion. My score ended up identical to Lou Filippo's 115-113 Hagler scorecard. Now 118-110 or 10 rounds to 2 Leonard is a curious scorecard that I'll get into later. I have my theories on what happened there aside from possible corruption. Throwing that out, we get 2 likely scorecards for a competitive fight. Eliminating the swing rounds 4 and 12, which both judges scored opposite. The only other differences between Moretti's scorecard and Filippo's was round 3 and round 10. Moretti scored them both for Leonard, Filippo scored them both for Hagler. So let's check out rounds 3 and 10. It was clear from the opening bell that Leonard's strategy was to try to control the fight utilizing lateral movement to lure Hagler into positions where Leonard's feet are set while the trailing Hagler was just catching up, then get off first, or by throwing quick scoring flurries. Then Leonard would either slip out and get back to lateral movement or clinch if he found himself on the inside. When he clinched, he would wait to release until he was in position to flurry off the release and go back to lateral movement. In the first 2 rounds, it worked well while Hagler was in the orthodox stance. Leonard was more comfortable moving right, which was orthodox Hagler's weak side. But here in round 3, Hagler came out as a southpaw. Now Leonard became more hesitant attacking as he was still opting to move right towards Hagler's strong side and more powerful backhand. From the southpaw stance, Hagler's lead hand also becomes a dominant weapon with his signature leaping jabs that are similar to gazelle hooks off of a level change. It's the first way he adjusted to Leonard's strategy of the distance trap. Scoring clean, effective punches is the most important of the criteria, but isn't the only criteria to score a round. Effective aggression, ring generalship, and defense are also part of the scoring criteria. Now, knowing what they actually mean, the only time that just the physical act of coming forward is a plus relevant to the scoring criteria is when the opposition is fighting negative, like Leonard did with his lateral movement without attempting to engage and actually fight. It's the opposite of the idea of combat in a combat sport. After all, if Leonard was to do this the whole round, it's one man trying to fight and one man avoiding a fight. Not to be confused with using footwork to evade punches or poor ring positioning, then resetting. When Leonard finally does actually reset, you can see the clear strategy and trap unfold. Hagler adjusts to Leonard's clinching by walking Leonard backwards to create space. Leonard was warned for holding, and especially holding behind the head, multiple times in the fight, but a point was never taken. You can see how effective and frustrating the excess lateral movement combined with strategic clinching can be. But how do you score it is the question. Do you give credit to Leonard as the ring general for implementing his strategy and making Hagler adjust to it? Or do you give more credit to Hagler making adjustments defensively on the fly? Beginning round 10, the same tactics apply. Only now, Leonard is gassed from all the excess movement and from sustained body work in the mid-rounds by Hagler. Leonard isn't moving as much and has to stand his ground more, giving Hagler more opportunity to let his hands go. Now Hagler is trying to lead, plus he's taking advantage of the clinches with his adjustments and winning inside exchanges. After the strategy started to break down and Leonard was forced to stand his ground, this turned out to be such a great fight of high skill and back and forth action, a truly classic matchup with skill, will, and ability. Pro fights aren't scored in slow motion, and there is no pause button to see what lands and what doesn't. Can you recognize boxing intricacies in real time? And how do you score it? I'll take this rant opportunity while you're here. This isn't the amateurs where all you're scoring is any punch to a scoring area, and aesthetics may lead to confusion, which admittedly plays a major role in pro boxing. To accurately judge and score a fight, boxing knowledge is pivotal. You have to know what you're watching, and you have to understand the criteria. Any judge who isn't basing their opinion off the scoring criteria shouldn't be a judge, and scoring a pro fight without boxing knowledge is the same as me judging figure skating or a mixed martial arts fight that's mostly on the ground. It will be my opinion based on observations that I don't understand and skill and ability that I probably don't even recognize. With the semi-criticism of Leonard's strategy that I've stated, let me express that the performance was incredibly impressive provided the circumstances. Leonard was coming off 3 years of inactivity and got back in the ring against a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the most dominant champions of all time. Only a special fighter could pull this off. So in defense of the judges, normal human bias may have played a role. Plus, I didn't let you hear the crowd, which was pro-Leonard. Every time Leonard threw hands, they would cheer loudly, which can easily influence a judge that has only one vantage point, in which sometimes they literally can't see the action. So if it wasn't corruption, 118-110 Leonard may have been just a judge that isn't built the same as the others. Or it may have been the bias of low expectations exceeded by Leonard, or high expectations never reached by Hagler given the circumstances. After all, the 7-year reigning middleweight champion Hagler was a 4-1 favorite against Leonard, who never fought above 154 in his career. So round 3 and round 10 were pivotal rounds in the fight based on the judges' scorecards. How did you score the rounds and ultimately the fight? I talked about a bunch of shit I don't normally talk about in this video, but it all touches on the reasons that pro fights are so unpredictable. Judging a fight that goes the distance really comes down to 3 individual opinions that you hope are qualified.
Judge Jojo Guerra scores the bout. 118 Leonard, 110 Hagler. And Judge Dave Moretti scores 115-113. By the winner, by a split decision, and new